Hello and welcome. I'm Bob Lichter, and I will be interviewing individuals for Kenosha Voices, an oral history project for the Kenosha County Historical Society in conjunction with Kenosha Community Media. I am a member of the Kenosha History Center and have volunteered there since 2015. We hope that you will enjoy these programs. I'm with Gary R. Stone, former employee of the American Brass Company in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Hello and welcome, Gary.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Well, when did you start working for American Brass?
March 15th of 71.
And how were you hired, and what was that application process like?
Well, I was out in Nebraska, and a lady I was carpooling with, I was working at the Cornhusker Army Ammunition plant outside of Grand Island, Nebraska. And she had a brother that lived over by American Motors, and he was some kind of contractor, building contractor or something. I can't remember for sure, but he told her that there was a lot of jobs up here if she ever needed a job to come on up. Mm-hmm. Well, eventually she did, years later, but a few years later, but I came up at that time, and I lived in Alfred's Trailer Park on the north side. And I brought my wife and two kids up here, and the third one was on his way. And my first job was at Johnson Motors down in Waukegan, but that only lasted about 6 months. I had that job. I came up here looking for the job first, and I went down there and got the job, and then I went back and got my wife and kids. And then I came up and moved up to Alfred's Trailer Park. Okay. And that was in the fall of '68.
Okay. Then after Johnson Motors?
And after Johnson Motors, I got laid off from there after about 6 months, and then I put an application at Case. I went up to Case, and I was supposed to start the next Monday, I believe it was. This is the way I remember it. I could be somewhat wrong, but I don't think so. I hope not. But anyway, they showed me a job that I would have when I got there. And so I said, okay, and I went back home. And in the process, somewhere along the line there, American Motors called me, and I said, well, I'm not going to go to Case. I'm right here in town, and a lot closer. So I wound up going to American Motors, and I had a total of about 10 months on there, but it was broken in two because I quit my job because I got saved on a Sunday. I went to my neighbors invited us to go to a revival down in Zion. And there was a little red-headed preacher boy and his wife there, and he preached, and he came back and prayed for me, and God really got a hold of me, and I quit my job at the Motors, but the church I started going to after that, they got my job back there. Mm-hmm. But in the process of that, I was out before I got back to working at the Motors. There was a couple months there that I didn't have a job, and I had those kids, and my wife really got worried. And so she prayed to the Lord that and asked that he would help me get a job. And she said I would, somewhere along the line, that I would say when I leave to look for a job, I would say something. Wouldn't it be funny if I got a job? I forget the amount, but it was way up there, And lo and behold, it turned out that I did that one morning, and it was on a Friday. I'm pretty sure it was a Friday. And I was ready to go out the door, and I give her that funny comment, saying, wouldn't it be something if I got a job making, a big amount? And she about jumped right off the couch because that's what she wanted to hear. And she asked the Lord for her. And so that very afternoon, I believe it was in the afternoon, that I went after lunch, I think it was, and I went and I wound up going to the brass. That's when I got the brass job.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, I was there for 28 and a half years.
Okay.
And from there, I lived in several different places. I think I moved from Alfred's Trailer Park to 31st Street off of Roosevelt. My oldest son went to school there. And then I think that's the way it was. And I also lived in Oliver. I rented a house from Oliver on 52nd Street.
Okay.
And my oldest son learned how to ride his bike in a Kmart parking lot.
Okay.
The first year they were open.
Okay.
And there was times I had a car or didn't have transportation to work. I remember I walked to work from there.
Okay.
From 52nd Street to the brass a few times until I got some transportation.
Okay.
But I remained going to church, and I was I must have done that for at least 8 or 9 years, the same church and everything.
Okay.
But all the time, they told me when I got the job, one thing was funny, was before I got that job, I remember going by the brass at one time, and the boys from the casting shop, they were around those melting pots back there in the back, and they were all black and dirty and everything, and I said, oh, man, I hope I never worked there, or I wouldn't go to work there or something. I made that comment. Mm-hmm. And then lo and behold, I got the job there. And I spent all that time there.
So you walked in there on a Friday afternoon and you started on Monday.
Yeah, lo and behold, that's the way it was. It was boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And the guy said, yeah, everything looks good. And if I remember correctly, he told me then to come in that next Monday morning. That was on a Friday, and I believe Monday I was there, and they put me over in the tube mill.
Tube mill, okay.
Yeah.
What happened in the tube mill? How did that?
Well, I wasn't there very long.
Okay.
Like I told you at the beginning, I said 2 months, but if you look at the record, mm-hmm. I was there about 10 months, and it just don't seem like I was there that long. But that's what the record says.
Okay, what was the type of work? So you're extruding tubes, copper tubes or brass tubes?
Yeah, these were copper tubes, and I was working on a. I wasn't running the saw. A fellow by the name of Stanley, I think he was Polish. He was a saw operator, and I was a helper.
Okay.
That I remember plain as day. And I had to untangle the bundles as they come from the crane and dropped them off on a bench, a slanted bench, and I had to untangle them so that we could do them one at a time and saw them to a certain length. Now what that certain length was, I don't know, because there's more than several different operations before it gets shipped out. I'm not sure what the full process of it.
Okay. What shift did you start on? I know there was 3 shifts there.
I only remember days.
Okay.
At that time. If I don't remember changing a shift. But after my time in the tube mill, I wound up going to the rod mill. And there was a friend, I made a friend with Paul Zahn, and he was hired the same day I was, and he wound up going to the box shop. And I often wondered
why they didn't send us both over there, but they didn't.
Okay.
Because I guess that was a decent job too.
What was produced in the box shop, or what?
Well,
this
those
is
were
what-
the boxes that we put the rods and product in. They had certain amounts into boxes, and they had a lot of different sizes.
Okay.
And that was for shipping.
Okay, wooden boxes?
Yeah, there were wooden case boxes. Some were small, some were a little larger. But the ones we dealt with, or I dealt with the most, were, 6 by 8 or something like that, or 8 by 8s or something like that. I'm just guessing because it's been so long since
Sure.
I've been in there. And we usually put a plastic over the metal that was put in there. I don't remember any board tops, but we put regular plastic that was measured across and then stapled to the box.
Okay.
But that was a different process. I didn't do any of that until, well, I did do it in the rod mill, but not in the tube mill.
Do you remember what you made per hour starting out?
Well, according to the record, it was 2 something, 290, wasn't it? I think it
so,
was.
Yeah. Okay.
Something like that. I think that was more than what I was making at the ordnance plant.
Okay.
But I can't swear to it. I'd have to go back to records. It seemed to me I was working for $1.75 or something like that at the ordnance plant. But I'm not sure.
When you walked in there that first day, that Monday, were you provided any training or?
It was just like on-the-job training. I mean, there wasn't anything special about being a helper because they showed you what to do. And untangling those tubes, you had gloves and you handled them, and but in the tube mill there was a lot of ringing because those tubes are hollow. And boy, I tell you, you needed earplugs really.
Okay. So as part of, was there required safety equipment like gloves and earplugs?
Yeah, gloves, safety
glasses?
glasses. I don't remember whether it was right away or not when I went to work there, but I do know that we had safety glasses.
Okay. Were there any other work rules, like as far as getting to work at a certain time in the morning or lunch breaks? Or
We had breaks. I think it was we started at 7 or 8 o'clock. I don't remember the exact times, but usually 9 o'clock we had breaks, and then a lunch. I'm not sure, but it seemed to me that we only had a half hour for lunch.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but that's what it seemed like to me. I don't really remember having an hour lunch.
Okay.
I don't think. But anyway, then you had a break at 2 in the afternoon, and then you were home 3:30, 4 o'clock or something like that.
Did they have a break room there, or like vending machines?
Yeah, they did. They had a break area where the office was, off one end of the office. They had I remember there was 3 parts to the office. One for the foremans, and then they had for the supervisor. It was in the middle, and then I guess they had 2. And then the third part was actually the lunch area, where there was 2 picnic tables and the machines that we did. And then they had like a garage door, a small one, overhead door for the man that handled the machines to bring them in or out, whatever, had to work on them or fill them up with food and stuff and drink.
Okay. Yeah. Did you have like a regular group of friends that you took lunch with or breaks, or?
I got acquainted with just about it. Most of the guys in there.
Okay.
But there was Randy Wilson is one that I remember real well, and Frank DeCello, and Frankie Gonzalez, and Harley Hamlin, who worked on the furnace. I remember a guy that we called the chief. He was the operator of the hydro press, and that was the big money machine in there, one of them anyway. And those guys got top dollar because they run the solid billets of metal, and they went into the furnace, and they had to extrude them through extruded dies, and that was a pretty big machine, and that stuff was really hot coming out.
So a billet is a big
yeah
piece of...
They were, probably 8 to 10 inches, I think, and probably 14, 16 inches long or something like that.
And that was copper?
And they were
alloy?
round. Well, those were, we ran brass and copper, I believe. If I remember right, I could be totally wrong there. But I think it was both, brass and copper.
Okay.
Yeah, we ran brass and copper.
Okay.
But I think the copper was basically the big metal, and then the brass was mostly rods, round rods and hectagon for bolts or nuts that goes to bolts,
Okay. All right. And it was a union shop, right? Union?
Oh yeah, it was union shop, yeah.
Okay.
Oh boy, my phone's going off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If there was a problem on a job, like maybe a safety issue or somebody not getting the work done right, was there someone you could go to for that?
Well, yeah, we had union stewards, and the union stewards, if it was serious enough, they would line up a meeting to where we could talk and and find out what we could do about whatever. Yeah.
We know that, like many of the Kenosha industries, there's a lot of change over the years. Now at American Brass too, what were some of the changes that you had to deal with?
Well, the ownership basically was we had to we had to do what the owners required, and they give that expectation to our supervisors and what they wanted done, and usually that maybe increase work productives or something like that, or maybe they instituted like the safety glasses. I don't believe we had them to start with when I first started, but I could be wrong. But then there was times when we had plastic helmets to wear, hard hats. That was something we had to get used to doing, and naturally our safety glasses. Oh, and our safety shoes, we had to have steel-toed shoes. So that was part of the deal. And they had a company that brought us in the shoes. And if I remember right, we paid for them at maybe a discounted price because it was a company project or something. I don't know. But it seemed to me that we paid for the shoes. But we had our choice of different shoes, yeah.
What were some of the products that you made? You mentioned about like a hexagon extrusion.
Yeah, I think that was, I'm not sure whether that went to Square D or, well, I remember they were one of the products, and then the segments that went to the engines on trains, the electric, the dynamo, I don't know,
Okay.
They went to some kind of motor that I think is on the trains. I should know that, but I just can't think right offhand.
Okay.
But I think there was different sizes. And that was out of strip copper. And I worked in the key press. I remember that really well, running those machines. We had die setters that put in the dies of the machine that we had to run, and then we ran samples to make sure it runs operate right. And then the operator was, which I was, then I could go ahead and operate.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had any trouble, I had to call the guys back in to service it or figure out what's wrong. But that we strung those keys on stringers. We call them stringers, but they were a piece of round metal with a loop on the one end, and we lined those keys up. There'd be so many keys, and then drop them in a box, and then we had to lay them and reverse them in that box until we got the right amount in there, and then we closed the box.
Yeah, those were actual, like a house key type of thing would be punched out?
Well, yeah, they're for it could be house keys, it could be master locks,
Okay.
or something like the big lock companies, like Yale, I think probably. I don't remember the exact ones. Schlage, I think, was one of them.
Sure.
But they made, we had dies for several different companies for key blanks. And we had to hoist to put the coil at the start of the machine, and we had to feed it in and get it ready to go into the die. And then we started out slow, and then we operated. And then we had to throw out anything that was bad or defaulted or had to stop if something happened,
Okay.
or whatever. But and then we had to stack them on pallets, the boxes on pallets. I don't remember how many there was to a pallet or whatever. I don't remember that part of it too much.
Okay. So all these different metal products, copper, brass, depending on the customer or the client you're making this, there might be a different, let's say,
Yeah.
recipe for that.
Yeah, I think most of it was probably semi-finished. You know,
Okay.
it wasn't totally done, but they had the product to start, putting on it what they needed on it.
Okay.
But we did have some dies on the keys that the die would stamp the name or whatever of the company
Okay.
on it, I believe.
Okay. Who was responsible for the metal, like if it was copper, brass? Sometimes there had to be an alloy, with maybe zinc or tin or lead.
Oh yeah, that all is people higher up.
Okay.
You know, they know how many billets or whatever it takes to run certain things, and so that has to be organized so that the furnace knows what to put in at the time we need it.
Okay.
Of course, there's a backlog on each one, a specific big job, but that metal is already planned for a certain product.
Okay.
Or for a customer, and as it comes down the line, so many, and I remember when we were working hot and heavy. Well, I've seen coils stacked almost to the roof or the bottom of the crane, so they didn't hit it. Mm-hmm. And there was rumors that they were going to shut down. We always had that rumor floating around, but it finally come to pass.
Yeah. When you were there in the 70s and 80s, how many employees were working in the plant then, approximately?
Well, I thought there was, when I started, I thought maybe there was probably somewhere around 1,000, 1,200.
Okay.
I thought. Now, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm just guessing. But we had, some layoffs, I think, and then we had this 2 big strikes, I believe it was. I wasn't on the real 8-month one, but I was on the 6-month one.
Was there a wildcat strike when you were there?
I don't know what you would call it.
Like everybody just shut down?
Yeah, I know that the, I don't think, no, I don't. We've had a couple disagreements and the guys walked out.
Okay.
And we got to where we were allowed a process like that once or twice a year or something like that,
Okay.
because they couldn't have it done every time you turn around. But if it was big enough, the guys say, well, we're shutting it off.
Mm-hmm.
And the unions, then we had to follow the union, what it was. But basically, no, the strikes were at the end of the contracts.
Okay.
And the renegotiation of those contracts.
Okay. What about with all the people you worked with? Or social activities, bowling teams, softball teams?
Oh, there was a lot of that going on, but like I said, once I started going to church, I kind of eliminated the drinking and stuff. It wasn't until I later on that I let a disagreement turn into bitterness and resentment, and then I fell away from going to church, and I don't even want to talk about that.
Okay, sure. You mentioned anniversary dinners.
Oh yeah, we had anniversary dinners, and they were pretty nice. We went to Fireside. I remember that, and we got acknowledged for our work, and I've still got a lot of paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
I showed you, and I got the anniversary cup and everything, and I even got the brochure. I didn't bring it with it, of the anniversary, which had some pictures of inside the brass of different things.
Mm-hmm.
I wished I'd brought it. I forgot. I've had so much going on lately with my eyes. So,
so you worked there from 1971 till 1999, you said?
I left in February of '99. I remember one of the foremans. I can't recall. I can remember him in my mind, but I can't remember the name. But he said, one of these days, when we were talking about shutting down there toward the end, when the new people came in, that were the investors, we realized that our numbers up, was numbered. And I remember him saying, there's going to be a time when you're going to wish you had this job. And boy, how true that turned out to be. Because I would have put another 10 years in the brass, I believe, as long as I stayed healthy. And it was like having a divorce when I left. I mean, it's still emotional to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. So circumstances with the end of your employment, they just came in one day. Like there's always rumors about shutting down.
I don't remember that. I don't remember exactly, because I think they stayed open. They weren't totally shut down for about a year after I left. There still was odds and ends, I think it was. I don't know exactly what went on, but I don't believe it was totally wiped out. Mm-hmm. But they were cleaning house big time those last several months or whatever. And they sold stuff out to, I don't know whether it was Korea or China or somebody. Some of the furnaces and stuff, I think. There was other people coming in and taking it out. But we knew when we got this new machine that went over in the sheet mill that they did spend a lot of money putting it in, but it just seemed like, it was one of them deals where you unplug it and it could be easily moved, put back on a flat bed of a train, and off it'd go again, because one major investment piece is it wasn't going to save the company. Plus, when I got there, they'd already had quit the rain gutters and the copper. I don't know what all they had. We had a whole bunch of old dyes and stuff that they made before that now wasn't even being used for any. I don't think they used hardly any of that. I think there was a guy that handled all of that. There was dyes that went into the some of the machines that we had that were still used, but a big of the rain gutters and stuff like that was not made anymore. I think the guy's name was Charlie. I can't remember. So many names I've forgotten.
Oh, sure. A lot of people.
I have to look at the cup, and then it hits me in the head, you know.
Yeah.
That's just when I see the names.
Do you miss working for the company?
Oh, definitely, definitely. You know, when you stop and think how my health is still good, sure, I'm not as strong as I used to be because I'm not working. But I believe I could have put another 10 years in Nebraska.
Okay.
And I could have had 38 to 40 years, I think. I mean, as long as our pay would, you know, kind of keep going up. And yeah, I've considered Kenosha my home. I was down in Chattanooga area. We decided to get out of the snow belt, like a lot of people. But my wife had cancer, and the lung cancer, and she was in remission, and we came back up. But all the time I was down there, the one thing I missed the most was the lake.
The lake, yeah.
The lake and my job that I had at the Brass.
Okay. What was the best part of your 28 years working at the Brass?
Having a place to work and a place that I could count on in my livelihood. And, you know, when you work at a place that long, you're kind of married to it. And divorce is out of the question. Yeah, one of us had to falter, and it happened to be the company.
Okay. What was the worst part about working at the Brass?
I didn't always get my way. I guess all the guys could probably say that. You know, we got away with a lot. You know, they didn't have a whip over us all the time, and we laughed and joked and cut up, and we horsed around when we shouldn't have. And we had, you know, different guys, you know, you palled around with on the job. Yeah, you do a little clowning a little bit here and there. No, you just got used to everybody. It's just like a marriage. You get used to people's personalities and stuff. But there was a lot of great guys that worked there.
Okay. What was part of the problem you had mentioned about the lack of improvements to operations,
well, you know,
machinery?
I think we all knew that we needed improvements in a lot of areas. You know. Sorry, I get a little emotional.
Oh, okay.
But I do. I miss the guys. Like I say, there's a few that I see, and I had a guy from the Brass at the car show. A guy from the Brass recognized me, but I could not recognize him. Usually I'm real good at recognizing faces, but I'm crazy.
Sure.
Names go out the window, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, Frankie Gonzalez, I see him at Golden Corral, and he's a good friend. He was a great little guy, and John Robbins, I know him pretty well, him and his wife. And I'm sorry I haven't called them lately, but it seems like if I have a deal on my retirement or something, I call them.
Okay.
Because they deal with that a lot, you know. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of good guys
I enjoy seeing them when I do see them. I really do.
Was there any opportunity when the plant here closed for people to transfer to another branch in another city?
Oh yeah, there was a few that went to Buffalo. They moved.
Buffalo, New York?
Yeah, so they could get their retirement. Johnny, a colored fella, Johnny Wooten was his name, and he went because he knew one of the machines that they wanted to keep, and they wanted to train others on it in Buffalo. And so he went, and I understand that he got his retirement in. I know there was others, but I don't remember how many. I'm sure there was others.
Okay. Okay. Is there any other little stories or anecdotes or?
Well, I know there was some of our maintenance people, or that had a skilled trade. Some went to American Motors. Some went to Abbott's, I think, down in Abbott's. And I think there was some regular labor guys that went to McWhite at the time before they shut down.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm sure that they found jobs somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They may have had to move in order to do it, but I don't know.
Okay. Okay, well, I want to thank you on behalf of Kenosha History Center and Kenosha Community Media for sharing your story with Kenosha Voices.
Well, I really appreciate the chance to tell somebody about what I think about Kenosha.
Okay.
It's a dirty shame that what happened to it, the fire and everything. That is a crime in itself.
Okay.
But I've always felt that this was my hometown, and I'll always love this place.
Great. Okay, thank you, Gary.
Okay, thank you.